My friends, that very personal gospel reading that we just heard is part of Jesus' prayer shortly before he died. He was with his disciples for the last time, and that cross was only hours away. So there he was, a young man, very much in love with life, less than 24 hours to live. Before the night was over, a friend would betray him, another would deny him, and others would abandon him. Corrupt political and religious authorities would have him nailed to a cross and leave him there to die. It certainly was a dark and a difficult hour for Jesus Christ. But the way that he handled this distressing time really is an example, an outstanding example for each and every one of us. Now, it's true that no one of us will ever equal it, but we can certainly learn from it. The first thing Jesus did in that fateful hour was to pray. You know, some people think of prayer as a refuge of last choice. When everything else fails, only then do they frantically turn to God. But with Jesus, turning to his heavenly Father in prayer was just as natural as was breathing. He lifted eyes to heaven and he said, "Father, the hour has come." You know, there was a calmness to it, not the prayer of a desperate man in search of escape. It's the prayer of a courageous man, drawing upon spiritual reserves that he had built up over the many years, spiritual reserves that sustained him throughout his life. You know, my friends, it's the nature of burdens and woes that they often happen suddenly, unexpectedly, and unannounced. You know, there's a sudden pounding on the door or the silly ringtone of a cell phone in the middle of the night, or a trip to the doctor to get the results from a recent physical. And suddenly, the hour has come. You're face to face with heartbreaking burdens and soul-wrenching woes. There's no time to get ready. No time then to learn how to pray. No time to build a deep personal relationship with God. So what this means is we should get to know God more personally, more intimately, building up our spiritual reserves long before we're going to need them. So then when life comes crashing down around us, we, like Jesus, can lift our eyes to heaven and pray, "Father." The second thing Jesus did when life was tumbling down around him was to experience this as something more than a tragedy. He didn't downplay the tragic element of the cross. The cross was there in all its ugliness. But Jesus looked beyond tragedy to the triumph. And he prayed, "Give glory to your Son, so that your Son may glorify you." You know, it takes a special kind of courage and faith to see glory in a cross. For centuries, people had seen it as nothing but a symbol of suffering and shame. But Jesus carried it, died upon it, and transformed it into a symbol of faith that the world has never forgotten. And the cross of Christ teaches us many truths. But one of the most powerful is this: bad though they may be, burdens and woes do not have to be a total loss. God can bring something good out of anything, even a cross. My friends, it's inevitable that we will experience burdens and woes. No life is immune from that. We don't have to go out looking for them. They will find every single one of us. But when they come, we can do something better than just endure them. Like Jesus, we can look beyond the tragedy to the triumph. In the darkest and most difficult night of his life, Jesus stood facing that cross and he prayed, "Give glory to your Son, so that your Son may glorify you." And that prayer has been answered, so that now, centuries later, millions of people around the world bow down before that cross. And if God can do that with a cross, my friends, then surely God can do something good with your crosses and mine when life comes tumbling down around us. And there's one other facet to Jesus' fearlessness and strength as he faced the most difficult day of his life. And it was this. Jesus had a very deep and profound love for others that displaced any possibility of pity for himself. Jesus' prayer was, first of all, not for himself, but for his beloved friends. There was more at stake than his own personal suffering. If Jesus had collapsed in that hour, then everything he had taught his friends about life and about God would have faded away and would have been forgotten. But Jesus escaped the weakness of self-pity because he cared so deeply for others. And it was for their sakes that Jesus endured the test and the challenge of the cross. My friends, when life is falling down around you, we should draw strength from that very same resource, our love for others. You know, we all have someone who depends on us, all of us. And if anyone thinks that's not true for him or her, then that person is living a life of self-centeredness. Those who depend on us, they're going to observe how we behave in the midst of trouble. And they're going to take their cues from us. If we give up, then they will be tempted to do the same. Times of great trouble are times that reveal our true character. More is at stake than our own personal pain. Other people will learn from us what to do and how to respond when life comes tumbling down around them. Jesus was sustained in those most awful hours by the sure knowledge that some of his friends were going to face similar troubles. And he knew that he must show them how to do it. And what was true for him is no less true for you and me. A commitment to others can help us to overcome the temptation to feel sorry for ourselves. Jesus had that commitment. He showed his friends and all the world how to respond when life comes tumbling down. What about you and me, my friends? Do we have that same kind of commitment to others? Are we willing to do for them what Jesus did for us and for all those whom he loved?